That had to be one of the most frustrating games I think we've seen in the past 3 years. This is one that the Lions should have won multiple times over. Mental mistakes, miscues, the defense not being able to get home all prevented us from winning that game. We were the better team. We're better than the Seattle Seahawks. They had more penalties than us, but we made more mental errors, and that was the difference in this game. I will say that this team showed a hell of a lot of grit, a lot of fight, and they were in it till the end, even when they were down 10 points at the start of fourth quarter. However, those mistakes just came around to bite us in the ass. Between Goff throwing the pick six, the dumb penalties, the refs not calling penalties that were very clearly penalties, and picking and choosing when they wanted to, throw the flag. I feel like too that there was a lot of times, at the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, where those mistakes were the difference in the game. At the end of the first half, we were kind of lackadaisical, trying to run down the clock. We took one shot at the end that Amon-Ra St. Brown had the fumble on, and then we start the second half with that pick six. And just mental mistakes like that we cannot have as a football team. We know for certain that the turnovers are the difference for this team. When they do not turn the ball over, we win. When we throw an interception, fumble it, throw a pick six, in the case of Jared Goff, that's going to be the difference in the game. We cannot have those mental errors. And it's kind of really disappointing to see that was at the home opener as well, when we should be at our best in front of our own fans, when the crowd is so damn loud. I saw on the TV that they had it up to almost 120 decibels at one point. That's when we have to be at our best. And unfortunately, that just wasn't the case today. I don't want to say that we were outplayed by Seattle, but they made the plays when they had to, and that was the difference in the game. I will admit there were a couple bright spots out of this game. One being Derek Barnes. I feel like he was great in the run defense. There was a couple plays in that first half where he was just shooting the gap, shooting the holes, stopping the running back at the line of scrimmage. I thought he had a really good game. And then also one other thing that I noticed is we have to get Amon-Ra St. Brown involved earlier. He had a pretty decent game overall. I'll post the stats right here, but you got to get him involved early. You have to let him develop that momentum, build out that game, and then hopefully you can start feeding throughout the game. I also thought that Jared Goff had a really good game as well. Put aside the 2 sacks, put aside the pick six, he played really, really well. He did have a mental error that was the difference in this game, but outside of that, his command, his leadership of this offense, it's something to be, excited about as we progress through the season. Yeah, today didn't work out in our favor, but the way he's playing right now, I feel like we're gonna be in games come late December, early January, and that might get us into the wild card, win the division, get us into a playoff game that might matter. The way Jared Goff is playing, that this offense is turning out to be one of the better ones in the league yet again. For the second year in a row, I do expect this offense to probably be top 2, top 3 best in the entire NFL the way we're playing right now. There are a couple injury concerns that, might be the difference. One is what happened to David Montgomery. Is it going to be something that's going to put him on IR, hold him out for a while, or is it just going to be a week-to-week thing with that knee that he was twisted up on? How long is Taylor Decker going to be out for? You might have noticed that we did shift Penei Sewell to the left side, Matt Nelson at the right. Once Vaitai went down, we brought in Graham Glasgow, which I want to hope is a one-for-one trade. I don't think Glasgow has been as good as Vaitai was in that first week, but it's still a cause of concern. We want that starting 5 offensive line to gel, to play, get together, be the elite unit that they are supposed to be. But with injuries, we're not going to see all 5, I don't think, for a foreseeable future. There are 5 things that I learned after watching this game. Number 1, it's still Detroit versus the referees, plain and simple. There were a lot of calls in this game that were very questionable. The first one that comes to the mind is the pass interference in the end zone. Guy barely touched him, and they threw the flag. And then when we have the ball and we're trying to make a play and we get tangled up and we get tripped over in the middle of the field, there's no flag. So I feel like the refs were very inconsistent. Again, going from week 1 to week 2, we're still fighting the refs. We're playing the other team, but we're also playing the Zebras as well. So hopefully that trend doesn't continue as we continue through the year. But as we all know, the refs hate the Detroit Lions. It's just the world that we live in. So screw the refs. We'll win with them or against them. It doesn't matter to me. This team showed enough grit and resilience that they can still win games despite the refs. The second thing I know is that this defense still needs work. We didn't have any turnovers this game. We only had 1 sack that was pretty much on Geno Smith for not throwing the ball away at the end of the fourth quarter. We were able to generate some pressure, But our defensive ends, our linebackers, our blitzes need to get home. Plain and simple. Geno Smith, with a backup right tackle and a backup left tackle, should have been sacked a hell of a lot more than he was. He should have had people in his face all day, should have been making mental mistakes as the game went on, and that didn't happen. Kudos to the Seahawks for game planning on that, getting the ball out quickly, drawing those linebackers up on run fits, but it never translated to sacks or turnovers for the Detroit Lions. That's a huge cause of concern, and I think a glaring issue with Aaron Glenn as of right now. When you're going up against two backup tackles, and Evan Brown for the center for the Seahawks was out for a little bit as well, you need to get home. And I will give him credit. He did bring some blitzes. He was a little exotic with what he's shown. However, you got to turn that into production, plain and simple. I feel like we keep on saying and hearing Aiden Hutchinson, but we need Charles Harris. We need James Houston. We need Romeo Okwara to step up. Aleem McNeil, someone else on this defensive line needs to get home other than Aiden Hutchinson. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what that might look like next week, but I do expect this defense to get better. Otherwise, we need to start looking at Aaron Glenn as a coordinator because it's been 3 years of this now. We've given you playmakers, we've given you talent. Now it's the time for that production to ramp up. The third thing I know, and the third thing that I learned from this game, is that the offensive line is still dominant. Matt Nelson came in as a backup. Graham Glasgow came in as a backup after Vaitai went down, and they still were able to play pretty well. Goff was sacked twice. Arguably, I think 2 of those sacks was him just kind of holding on to the ball just a little bit too long and trying to step up into the pocket to prolong the play. So, kudos to the offensive line. They were opening up some great holes at the beginning of the game for Montgomery and for Gibbs. But, it hurts when you're down 2 offensive starters, being Decker and Vaitai. Hopefully, it's nothing long-term for Decker. I hope and pray it's nothing long-term for Vaitai, but it didn't look good when he was down for a few minutes. So hopefully they're able to recoup, get back in the starting lineup. However, I do feel pretty comfortable with rolling with those 5 that we have out there right now. Is it great? No, but they're still good enough for us to suffice and be able to power through the rest of the year. The fourth thing I know is that Goff is that dude. I mentioned it earlier in the video, but outside that pick 6, he had a fantastic game. He was connecting with everyone, finding open receivers across the field, making throws that counted. I think we're pretty critical of him just being the quarterback of the team, and he's not a gunslinger like Stafford was, but he's still very, very efficient. He's the leader of this team. He took one hell of a shot that was incredibly cheap, but he was able to get up, get in that defender's face, talk the smack, and go back and lead the offense on a scoring drive. And that's what you want from someone like that. Take the hits, get back up, and lead this offense. So, again, that pick 6, it was the difference in the game. It hurts, it stings, but I'm still pretty happy with Goff's performance in this one. And again, I think he has the resilience and the leadership to lead us pretty far this season. So kudos to him. I think he overall, we'll grade him like a B plus maybe. That pick 6, brings it down a couple letter grades, but overall, he still had a pretty awesome game. And the fifth and final thing that I learned from this game is that this team still encompasses grit. There were multiple times throughout the game where they got knocked down, things didn't go their way, and they said, screw it. We're still going to play our ball, we're still going to perform, and we're still going to execute. The primary example that stands out to me is when we had that touchdown. It was called back on a penalty, and we still went in and scored. The Lions of old, if that happened to them, they would crumble. We would settle for a field goal and be happy that we still got points. But this team said, no, we're going to go get what's ours. The ball don't lie. And they went out and scored that touchdown still. So they came back from 10 down at the fourth quarter after that pick 6. And that's tough. Once the momentum swings, it kind of felt like the wind was taken out of the sails, at the end of the third quarter going into the fourth quarter. But they were able to turn it back up and say, no, not today. We're going to fight. We're going to be resilient. And we're going to put ourselves back in this game. Even on that last drive, they had the 3 and out against the Seahawks to get the ball back. Were they able to score the touchdown at the end of the game and seal it? No, but they were able to get that field goal to send it to overtime, which it's good. It's not great because you don't get the dub. But, it shows fight. It shows resilience. And I think as fans, that's all we can ask for. They made it one hell of a game. The cardiac cats are back. I'm probably going to have to take a nap after this game because I'm so exhausted because my emotions were on a roller coaster. So let's regroup, go back to the drawing board for next week, take this L and move on. Go back, watch the film, learn from your mistakes, and prepare for next week because that's all we can do. As it stands today, The Vikings lost, the Bears lost, and Green Bay just lost by a point to the Falcons. So we're tied at 1-1 at the top of the division with the Packers. Not the best place to be. I'd rather be at 2-0 and have a game on them, but we're right there. We're still at the top of this division. Now we have to go on a run, exert our dominance, and close out these next 3-4 games.